Hello, Crystal.
Hi, Finley. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday to you. Today, all of you little weirdlings out there, we are going to talk about Natalia Grace. Um, I do not know as much about Natalia Grace as I should, probably. But here are just the basics. She was a Ukrainian orphan with a rare form of dwarfism. Uh, she came into the headlines, I guess, in 2019. Is that right?
That sounds about right.
I
Yeah.
think so. Her adoptive parents were charged with all kinds of uh, neglect of a dependent, and it resulted in 5 years of investigations. It says, let's see, this article I'm reading says the charges resulted after a 5 year investigation revealed that the Indiana couple who adopted Natalia as a 6 year old in 2010 had moved her into an apartment in July of 2013 and then moved to Canada with their three other children. So abandonment was also the other issue. And this came from people.com, that quote. Um, Let's see. The couple says that she was an adult masquerading as a child and that she attempted to poison the mom. She threatened to stab the son and all kinds of other awful, terrible things. Um, I would just think that one of the claims was that she attempted to drag her mother toward an electric fence. But I mean, how could she do that?
Yeah.
As small as
I-
she, I mean,
yeah.
seriously.
Well, and one of the things that stood out to me about the incident where she supposedly was trying to drag her adoptive mother to an electric fence is um, in interviews, Michael, the father, was like, "Oh yeah, I saw her trying to drag her, and I tried to go back, but my wife said no. I've got this. You keep going." And so like he and the sons went somewhere, and um then he heard like a siren a few minutes later, and he was like, "Oh, is my wife dead?" I'm like, if you were really that scared for her safety, would you have turned around and walked away?
Right. Come
Like,
on.
who does? You don't. I don't care what anybody says to me. If I see somebody, like if I see especially somebody I love in danger, I don't care what they say. Oh, it's fine, go ahead. No, I'm getting you out of danger.
Right. That doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah. And I
And
believe
so,
that
go ahead.
oh sorry, I believe it was Natalia that was actually taken away in an ambulance after that incident, not Christine. So
Wow. So Natalia denied everything
mhm.
that they accused her of.
Yeah.
Uh, and then I read something that said that she DNA test confirmed that she's actually 20 years old.
Yeah, they did. They did DNA tests, and they also had a dentist like look at her teeth, which teeth are a really good way to determine age. And yeah, all of that came back saying that no, like she's 20. She was born in 2003, just like everything was first said um when she was adopted. And yeah, she's
So she was 10 when they put her in an apartment in
yeah,
2013.
yeah, she was like 9. Yeah, I don't think she had quite turned 10 yet. So she was
Oh
still
my
9.
gosh.
Because I'm not exactly sure when her birthday is. So I guess it was like earlier in the year.
It
Um,
is September. Well, let me find that because I found it. Uh, she, hold on, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Let's see. Well, she may be 22 now.
yeah, she's early 20s now. Like 2021, because I believe, yeah, because 2003 sounds right for the year that she was born. I don't have my notes in front of me. I'm sorry, but
That's okay.
I'm like, so I do think it was 2003. And just looking at photos from the time when she was living with the Barnetts and they had first adopted her, and like some of the things about what they said, they're like, well, even if you have dwarfism, how could you be this size at age 6 and still be the same size at 20? Like, you would have grown. And I don't know enough about dwarfism to know when you stop growing, but I don't think that their growth patterns are necessarily the same. Like, that's, their bodies are not functioning quote unquote regularly. Like, I don't want to say it's irregular to have dwarfism or anything like that, but just what would quote unquote be normal. Like, I don't know any of that, but looking at photos, like, her face is clearly the face of a child.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I know I saw, they said when her birthday was, and I want to say it's like September 22nd or something like that. I'm still looking for it. What is Natalia Grace's date of birth?
I think, like, when I saw something where they were changing it to 1989, it might have said August, but
September 4th,
okay.
2003.
Okay. I'm like, obviously when they like re-aged her, they might not have kept the same birthday. I don't know. And I might have not looked that closely at the document, but yeah.
Well, her biological mother claimed her.
Yeah. Yeah, her biological mother was like, no, she was born in 2003. That's when I gave birth.
And, excuse me.
But I mean, it's just such a weird, it really is such a weird situation. And the things that they did and the things like the Barnetts did and the things that they said, which, like, if anybody's ever seen the movie Orphan, it's literally stuff straight from that movie. And I don't remember exactly when that movie came out, but let's find out. But I'm just like, yeah, life imitates art sometimes, or art imitates life, however you want to look at it. But to be that close just seems like a lot. And okay, so Orphan came out in 2009, about the same time that they were adopting her, actually.
Wow. I don't care if a child has dwarfism or not. How do you abandon a child?
Yeah. And the thing is too, I'm just, not that child abuse is worse because it's on an adopted child. Like, child abuse is horrible and evil either way, but it's just like, you chose this child. Like, you literally went out into the world and said, I want to be this child's mother, and then to turn around and be abusive and abandon them. And it was just like, you chose that child. How could you do that? Like, if you don't want to deal with somebody that has disabilities, if you don't want to have all that extra stress in your life of dealing with somebody with special needs, especially a child, like, don't voluntarily open up your home to them.
Right. They're not, adopted children are not pets that you can rehome.
Right?
They're just not.
No. Like, they're not, okay, let's take them home, try them out, and if it doesn't work, try again. Like, that's not how that works. You're supposed to be their home and their safety. And they were just the exact opposite for her.
Yeah, I know when Natalia was interviewed, she said, in every lie is a hidden truth, but you've got to dig enough to be able to see it. They're not going to get away with this. This is my side of the story. And then she asked, "Do I look like a monster to you?" I mean,
Yeah. Which I think is an unfair question because most real monsters don't look anything like you'd expect a monster to, which is not to say anything
right.
against Natalia Grace at all. Not to say anything against her at all, but I'm just like, lots of monsters don't look like monsters.
You are so right about that.
So that's just like, so I'm like, that's just kind of, I don't care if you look like a monster or not. It's who you are as a person that makes you the monster and what you've done. And I mean, I'm sure that, Natalia Grace did do stuff that was like little kid things that they do because they don't understand and they don't know any better. And, like maybe she like spilled something or told little lies because 6-year-olds do that. That doesn't mean she deserved anything that happened to her,
Right. So, did they have her checked out for mental health issues or anything like that?
Yeah. So some of the things that they did, which it really seems like a lot of what they did with when it came to institutions, is they waited until they had legally re-aged her, and now she was legally 22, which is really interesting. So, it's, they were dealing with her and the situations, and it's like, I feel like if you as a parent think that there's something psychologically going on with your child and your child needs help, like in some ways it's easier to get them into a hospital when they're a minor than as an adult, but they waited until legally she was being classified as an adult because they had re-aged her, and then they put her into institutions. But the institutions, and that's really weird. I didn't see where we got a lot from the institutions themselves, but we were getting different sides from Michael and from Natalia. He was being like, "Oh, the institutions, they were calling and they said that they wouldn't keep her anymore because she was making sexually suggestive comments and trying to come on to the men and all these things, and so that the institution kicked her out because she was being sexually promiscuous." And I'm like,
Wow.
is that a thing that psychiatric facilities do, or would they just like make sure she was in a women's only ward? Like, since when is being promiscuous considered a reason to kick somebody out of a mental health facility? I mean, back in like the 20s and 50s, women were constantly being put into psychiatric wards because their family thought they were promiscuous. And obviously that was just completely different. But it's like somebody being kicked out because of that. And of course, then Natalia's like, "No, I wasn't." She's like, "I was like 9 years old. 8 years old. Why would I be trying to be sexually promiscuous?" And she's like, "Maybe I was picking up language on things that people were saying because that kind of talk might have been around me because I was in an adult facility. And as kids do, they repeat things that they hear, whether they understand them or not." And I'm like, that's totally true. I repeated all kinds of stuff when I was 9 years old that my older brothers were saying that I had no idea what I was actually saying.
Well, yeah.
And I'm like,
so what do you know about the Manns, Cynthia and Antoine Manns?
yeah, I don't know much about them, honestly. I haven't completely finished watching all of the newer season of the documentary series, but they, from what I can tell, they have adopted quite a few children. They have multiple kids with special needs. They have a total of 11 children, and I think it's probably a mixture of adopted and natural, but they weren't very clear on that.
Gotcha.
But they're like in the process. They want to like, they're trying to legally, I think it's still in the process to legally adopt her so that they are legally her parents. Like, even though she's like 20, I know that you can still go through that process up to a certain age. I'm not sure what that age cutoff is. So they're going through that process, and she's been with them for like 10 years. And from what she says, like, she's very happy there. I believe he's a pastor. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think he said he was a pastor, and they're a very religious family, which is totally fine. But it just seems like she's happy there, and it's, you know, she's with people that are actually treating her well now. So,
Well, I saw that there is a plot twist to the end of season 2.
oh, I haven't seen that. Okay, so maybe I'm not up to date on everything that's happened now.
So I don't know if she got a happy ending or not with the Mans.
Okay.
I guess I'm saying their last name right.
Yeah, that's their last name, Mans.
Okay. I'm not gonna do the spoiler for you. I'll let you see it.
It's fine. It's fine. You can spoil it for me. It's my fault for not finishing it before we did this.
No. So 2 weeks. Let's see. Hold on. Let me make sure I have the timeline right. In December of 23,
Okay.
Antoine Mans called the producers of the show and told them something ain't right with Natalia. This girl is tweaking. I feel like she's the enemy in the house. And she said to us, we have held her hostage, made us look like we're the enemy. And then Cynthia Mans said, Natalia is stabbing her family in the back over a complete lie. And then Antoine adds, she's done other things too, but this was a new low. Natalia does not have emotions for nothing but herself. We're done. We're done with her. And I don't see anything else after that, but that was December of 23.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I mean, I don't know, like watching her, and I mean, you know, I feel like the only people that really know the full truth are the people that were there. Because I do think that everybody has their own purposes in the stories that they're telling, if that makes sense. I do think, I mean, I think it's very clear that she was abused. I do think that she was a child at the time. But that doesn't mean that that there's not benefits to her trying to skew certain things in her way when she tells the story. I do believe a lot of what she says, but some of the stuff, like as I was watching it, I felt like it was like a little bit of conflicting facts as well. It, like, not with everything, but just with some things, with some small things, like you know, like at one point, I do think she was talking about, and it could just be like so much stuff in timeline things. So I'm not going to try to say she's a liar, but I just know like her age wasn't always consistent when she was talking about specific things. She'd be talking about one thing and be like, I was 8 when this happened. And then she'd be talking about it again and be like, I was 9 when this happened. And I'm like, it could just be mix-ups in her mind. But I do think that, I don't know. I think it's a weird situation. And I do think, I don't know what I think, Finley, honestly. I'm like, I do think she was abused. I do think that there's more to the story than what anybody's been telling, including her. But whatever she did or did not do, she was a child. And she was not, I'm sorry, she was not the aggressor. She was a child. She was 8, 9, 10 years old. Like,
And
Children,
even if she was the aggressor, she's a kid.
exactly. She's a child. She is a child. She is somebody that you chose to bring into your house, saying you were going to care for them and love them and be their family, and you didn't do any of those things. You didn't fulfill your promises.
Right. And now I'm questioning her motives if what the mans are saying is true.
Yeah.
Because now there's a second family that's talking about her behavior. I don't, yeah, I mean, this is weird.
But then it's also, is her behavior going to be, be like, this is what she's doing, this is what she feels she has to do because of the life that she had as a young child. She was, she was discarded, she was treated poorly, she was made to lie about who she was and how old she was, and treated like she was trash.
It's no wonder she can't remember how old she was when certain things happened.
Exactly, there's that too. And that's exactly, I was like, well, she's not keeping things straight. And then I'm like, but so much was happening to her and she was so young. And like, I could totally see, yeah, so that's exactly where I'm coming from. I'm like, well, why don't these facts match? And then I'm like, well, she was a kid, she was so young. So I don't know.
I cannot imagine being 9 or 10 years old and my parents saying, okay, we're going to leave you here. We've got to move to another country.
Yeah, which I knew that they had put her in an apartment and they were saying that she was like 22, and everybody and others were saying that she was still like 9. And I didn't realize until like I started doing the research for this episode that they had completely left the country when they did that. They're like, we're leaving you here in Tennessee and we're going to Canada.
Right.
Like, what?
For their autistic son.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Jacob, their son Jacob, was autistic, and he was doing graduate studies in physics. He was 15.
Wow.
Which is amazing to me. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, physics still confuses me.
Yeah, I'm not even going to go there. I'm definitely not the one.
Yeah.
And then the Barnetts, is it Barnett? It's the Barnetts.
Yeah, Barnett.
They divorced before it ever went to trial.
Yeah, and he, I don't know if she's done any interviews or anything. I wasn't able to find any that she did, but he's just like, oh, she's evil, and he's basically trying to say his angle of it is that he was under her control, and she was basically like emotionally abusive towards him and was able to control him through that. And she was always threatening, like, if you tell anybody what I'm doing to Natalia, then you're never going to see your sons again. And so he's very much trying to make himself a victim of the situation as well. But I'm like,
so he's saying Christine was doing that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that she was the one that perpetuated all the abuse, and that he was telling about, he's like, oh, well, there was like a time that I came home and she was just beating on Natalia, and he's like, and I recorded it, but then when she saw that I had recorded it, she told me that if I didn't do basically a factory reset, that's not the words he used, but basically a factory reset on his phone, so that it was like gone, that he would never see his kids again. And I'm like, no, I'm sorry, that's a poor excuse for anything. Because I'm like, you literally have evidence right there that she was beating one of your children. If you had gone to any court with that video, you would have had full custody of all 4 of the kids.
Right.
Nobody would have given her custody of any of those kids.
And I'm just kind of baffled at how, if she was in these institutions and she was seeing some kind of counselor or therapist or psychiatrist, whatever, where are the notes from all that? I mean, where are the medical records that show that she was making these threats to kill and that she wanted to harm other people?
Right?
There's none. I couldn't find any.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And like, I don't know. It's definitely really interesting though, with like the interviews of people that have known them. Like there's so many people that are like, this is clearly a child, this clearly was a child. And then there's other people that are like, no, she's clearly, when she was living alone in that apartment, she was clearly an adult.
So how long was she in the apartment though? Because what I read said that the Mans, as soon as they met her, took her in. And it almost made it sound like it was pretty soon after she moved into that apartment.
I think she was living on her own. I'm not really sure the full timeline, but I do think it was probably less than a year from like, because things were coming out and things were just obvious. And I don't remember exactly how it came about, but I think somebody reported that they were like, I think this is a child living alone in this apartment. And so like it was investigated. Like there was a tip and it was investigated. And then that's when like you said, it was 5 years of investigation before it finally went to trial. But she was, once everything was investigated and there was starting to be questions of her age and all of that, I think that's when she went to live with the Mans. And it said that she has been there with them for 10 years. So they put her into the apartment in 2013, and she's been with the Mans either since later 2013 or 2024 or 2014. Sorry, because it's 2024 now. So she's been with them for about 10 years. I do think it was less than a year that she was on her own, which is good because she was not doing like there was a lot of stuff she wasn't doing well. And one thing that was that did not change from both sides, from Michael or Natalia, her power went out in the apartment in the middle of the summer, and so she lost all her food and everything. So she had no food, no power for like a week. And Michael is the one that did get everything turned back on.
So were they paying for the rent and utilities and all that stuff?
Yeah, they were paying the bills for it, which makes me wonder what their jobs were that they could afford 2 households. I'm like, I can barely afford one.
Okay. All right.
But yeah,
they just left her behind.
Yeah, they just left her behind, and it does sound like from both of their sides on that like portion of everything, it does sound like it was more like Christine, like she was supposed to be making sure all that stuff was getting paid. And of course, like with the food, it was just like, okay, so there was no power. So then obviously all her food, like you only have so much time, no matter how long you keep everything closed, you only have so much time before everything in the freezer and the fridge goes bad. And you can't cook anything, even like the dry stuff that you might have. Plus she was 8, 9 years old, like maybe 10 at most. I mean, I could cook some things at 10 years old, but not very much. And she probably could honestly barely reach anything. Her apartment was not ADA accessible from all reports. So like she probably couldn't reach a microwave. She couldn't reach the stovetop very well. Like how was she supposed to feed herself in general anyway?
I just cannot comprehend as a 9-year-old having to manage a household on my own.
Right?
You don't have the maturity, you don't have the income, you don't have any way to get anywhere.
No.
We're literally stuck there.
Yeah. you're literally stuck there. And at the time, she did have legal documentation saying that she was 22. So I'm like, so supposedly she could have gotten a job, but could she really have gotten a job just with her like physical disabilities? Like, I'm sure there's jobs that she can do 100%. I'm sure there's jobs that she can do, but even though paperwork said she was 22, she was a child. And what is she's not going to know how to look for a job. She's not going to know how to do that. She's not going to know if she can do anything. And like, it's not like she's going to be able to go fry burgers somewhere,
Right. And even if she were able to find a job where she could work, she does not have the mental capacity to perform the functions of the job.
No.
She doesn't have enough, even worldly knowledge. She just doesn't have enough knowledge in any aspect at that age.
Yeah. Like at 9, I would go like to neighbors' houses and be like, hey, can I pull some weeds for some money? Like,
yeah.
Or can I wash your car? Like, like it's just, or my brothers and I would build a lemonade stand and go out on the street. Like, that's what you do when you're 9. That's how you make, and you're like, and just to even have the knowledge of like how much money you need to live and survive. Because, at 9, if I was like, somebody was like, yeah, I'll give you like $5 to pull weeds in my yard for 2 hours, I'd be like, okay, that sounds like a great deal to me.
Right.
Like, like you just have no conception of how money really truly works and how much you actually need. So yeah, the mental capacity is not there to understand if she's being treated well by a job that she might be having, if they're following any laws, if they're paying her correctly. None of that would be there. And then to like know what to do with a paycheck and know how to like just handle and budget and do all that. And yeah, they were like, the Barnetts were supposedly paying her bills most of the time until they like let the electricity go out, or Christine did. But like, I mean, I just can't imagine being on my own at that age, even in an apartment and not having to worry about bills. I wouldn't have had any idea what to do.
Exactly. I wouldn't have either. And Michael got off. He was found not guilty of the charges against him.
Yeah.
And you said Christine hasn't given any kind of interviews?
Not that I saw. I did not see any interviews with her. And during her trial, like her trial didn't even wasn't even finished. Her lawyers asked for charges to be dismissed based on some reason. I'm not completely sure what the reasoning is. And so she didn't have to completely go through with the trial, and she never was declared innocent or guilty. Like, it was just, she didn't get charged. And then the one interview that I did see was from the jury foreman for Michael's trial. And she was like, well, all of us believed he was guilty, but based on the parameters we were given by the court, we had to find him not guilty.
Oh.
That was really interesting. And he's going about like, oh, everybody knows that I'm innocent now, and I don't have to deal with this anymore. And then you have like the jury being like, well, no, we think that you're guilty, but just based on the information that we had and the parameters we were given on making the decision, going by that, we couldn't legally find you guilty. But we all think that you 100% are.
So according to WLFI News 18 in Lafayette, Indiana, the case against Christine Barnett, I keep saying Barrett, it's Barnett, sorry, was dismissed due to insufficient evidence to prove the charges in the case beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, so the lawyer was like, yeah, they asked for it to be dismissed because of that, and they did. And I think basically what the foreman was saying is like, whatever they thought, it was the evidence wasn't sufficient enough to say beyond a reasonable doubt, even though all the jurors, she's, according to her, quote from the jury foreman, 100% of the jury thought he was guilty, but they couldn't legally find him guilty.
Wow. Just another case of American justice, huh?
Yeah. And it's just like, he might not have been the one that was physically abusing her, and he might not have been the one that was like masterminding all the things that they did, but he went along with it. He didn't stop it. And especially with the things like getting her legally re-aged,
Mm-hmm.
He was an active participant in. Like, he couldn't have not been an active participant in that. Like, you let these things happen. You got her legally re-aged. You got her into a mental hospital. You put her in an apartment by herself when she was 9 years old and then moved to a completely different country. You did all of those things, whether or not you ever physically hit her or any of the other things. Like, you were at the very least, you were passive.
Right.
And that's still disgusting for what was going on. You were just passive and let it happen at the very least.
And if Christine's not talking, who's to say that he's not telling the truth about her being the mastermind?
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be able to keep my mouth shut if things were being said about me that weren't true.
Mm-hmm. And from what Natalia is saying too, I do think that Christine was like the aggressor in the abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that she was the mastermind and she was the one that was kind of, but I'm like, but you still, you didn't do anything about it.
Right.
And he's just like, one of the things he said, he's like, the day we adopted Natalia Grace is like in the top 5 days of my life. And I'm like, if you really felt that way, why? I don't care what threats Christine was telling you, because the threat he always mentioned was he'd never get to see his sons again. And I'm like, you had actual physical evidence of the abuse that would have left her powerless in a court of law. If this tape actually exists, or this video actually existed, if you actually recorded her physically beating on Natalia, that's all most courtrooms would need to give you custody of all 4 kids.
Right.
So he's like, Christine might have been the mastermind, but I'm like, you don't just sit back and let that stuff happen. Like, you're not as innocent as you want everybody to think. You're not a victim. The only victim is Natalia. She was a child. I don't care what she did. I don't care. Like, honestly, I don't even care if her pouring dish soap or Pledge or whatever in Christine's coffee. I don't care if that's a 100% true story, which is something that she denies. But I don't care if it's true. She was 7 years old.
Yeah.
Little kids do stupid crap that could potentially be dangerous. And especially if she was already at that time being abused, she's like, well, maybe if I can at least make her sick, like, I can get a relief from that, because kids' logic doesn't work the way adult logic does.
Exactly. That mental capacity again. And I mean, those are the years that she needs the education so that she can function as an adult. And she wasn't getting any of that. Nope.
Yeah, she's talking about how she didn't know anything about stranger danger. She didn't know anything about, because I guess one of the things when she was in the apartment, she would go to other people's apartments and just take food. And I'm like, okay, at 8 and 9, I definitely would have known that difference. But I'm like, that you can't just go into somebody else's house and take their food. But right. I'm like, but at the same time, I'm like, she was pulled out of school in 1st grade. Like, things that you learn, not even necessarily from your parents, but just by being out and existing in society, even just school. Like, she wasn't exposed to a lot of that to have that chance to learn those things. She was what she was exposed to was very limited. And I think it was very limited on purpose. So she's just like, these are things that most 8-year-olds know, but I didn't. And I'm like, I don't know, that could be a bit of an embellishment on her part, but at the same time, if she's 8 years old living on her own, like how, and her parents aren't feeding her regularly because they're in a different country, how else is she going to get food, honestly?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. This case, it's just, the whole thing is just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And weird. Definitely weird.
It is. It's so mind-boggling. It's so weird. And like there are things that like you do kind of question, like, okay, well, it does seem that there's some truth to some of the things that the Barnetts said, but at the same time, it's like, okay, but it's a child, and I definitely think you're skewing it to make the situation worse than whatever Natalia actually did. And whatever she actually did, she did as a child whose mind is still developing, whose mind isn't being nurtured the way that it should be when she's that age. So I can't really find blame on anything that she might have done as a child in this home.
Right.
With whatever's going on with the Manns, I mean, she is now an adult, and I'm sure her mind is still, I mean, her mind's always going to be affected by the abuse she went through as a child, and that is going to have an effect on her. But I mean, now she should be able to make better distinctions and better choices. But having that kind of abuse in your life, it's not the kind of thing that is just going to be like, oh, okay, well, now I'm in a better home, so everything's going to be great. It's not how it works.
Right. Yeah, you're right. And what she did learn in her formative years was to lie, and that abuse is, I mean, in her mind, abuse is love, because that's what she was taught by this family. I mean, it's no wonder she says or does things that she says or does, allegedly.
Yeah.
That's how she learned.
Yeah. She learned that how you get by in life is to lie and manipulate. And that's not an easy thing to unlearn.
No, it's not. It is really not. Hopefully she's in a much better place now. And I mean, I can't imagine if she was pulled out in first grade, she probably did not even know how to read. Not well, anyway.
Yeah, not well. I mean, I could read in first grade, but I mean, if you just think, even if she had like a normal first grade reading level, that's not great, you know? Right. It's not like you can read some Berenstain Bear books, or I don't know what first graders read now.
I know, that's been a long time ago.
Like, I was buying books for my nephews at Christmas time, and I'm pretty sure everything I got them was way too old for them. But I was like, you know what? They'll grow into it. It's fine.
That's right. That's right.
I was just like, you know, I'm just like, Lenny likes mermaids. I'm getting him a mermaid book. I don't know if it was way too old for him. It probably was.
I mean, it's just the strangest case. I need to see. They're talking about a season 3, and I don't know what'll happen if they do a season 3. But I'm definitely going to be caught up on all of it before that comes out, and we may need to do a follow-up episode.
Yeah, I agree. Like, see, because I do think this is something, especially if there's something going on with the Manns right now. Like, it's still a developing situation, and I mean, she's still so young. I'm like, she's 20, 21. Like, she is still so young, and she can still learn so much and do so much with her life. And, you know, maybe she has made some missteps as a young adult, but I do think that, you know, she still has time to turn that around, if she has.
And what young adult do you know that hasn't made some missteps?
Oh my gosh, my 20s were like a saga of missteps.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm definitely going to have to follow up, and we'll keep y'all posted on what's going on with Natalia Grace.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if they do another season, like I'm sure we'll all learn some more about that, and we can revisit it.
Awesome. Well, Crystal, thank you so much for being on here tonight with me, and hopefully we'll have us a follow up to this case pretty soon.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you.
Yeah. When is Crystal is co-host for Blonde's Books and Campfire Tales? When is y'all's next episode going to come out?
Yeah, it's actually this upcoming Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, so 8 East, 8 Central.
Okay.
Yeah, 8 Central. And this week we are talking about the Mothman.
The Mothman. That sounds fun and weird and exciting.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I'll leave it till Tuesday because I'm like, I've seen this meme that's just been popping up about the Mothman a lot lately that is amusing me, but I'll leave that until Tuesday.
Oh, something to look forward to. There's your cliffhanger. All right. Thank y'all for joining us tonight. Have a great week, and we will see you next month.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.